It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Alex, and Jason are here, but we also have a special guest. Ray Maxwell's back. He bought the 2019 Mac Pro at a great expense. He also just got his 2023 Mac Pro. Pros and cons on the Mac Pro, plus a whole lot more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 877, recorded Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. Too small to be dangerous. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by ZocDoc, the free app where you can find and book appointments online with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed physicians and specialists. Filtered specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak and download the ZocDoc app for free. And by AG1. Take ownership of your health with a simpler, effective investment with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase of a subscription. Go to drinkag1.com/MacBreak. And by ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, you're dealing with a slowing economy, and that adds to your challenges. Thankfully, there's a hiring partner who's focused on you and your needs. ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And the regulars are in the house. Let's say hello to Alex Lindsay of OfficeHours.Global.
Hello, hello.
Perfect sound and picture. 5 out of 5. Room Raider loves the shot. Also, Andy Ihnatko from WGBH in Boston, radio guy, but he also looks mighty fine.
Hey there, Heather. There. Thank you very much.
And you're not flooded out. You're not wearing your waders.
Mentally, always, but as far as the home, no,
Good.
No problem.
Pleased to hear it. From Moren, just down the road a piece, Jason Snell of 6colors.com. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Leo. Good to be here.
Did you get your Vision Pro yet?
Alas, I think I'm going to have to wait a while on that. I'm not sitting on the front porch hoping that a box is delivered.
You
soon.
and everybody
Let's put it
else.
that way.
Yeah. I also want to,
but that's great because just quickly that the fact that he answered the question means that he doesn't have it.
That's the canary,
if he deferred
right?
it, then
Right.
yeah, exactly.
We're going to do this from now through next year.
Remember, if that G4 iMac screen is ever tilted off screen, that means he has the Vision Pro.
It's a Vision
I
Pro.
am legally
canary.
required to say no.
Yeah, something like that, or just tug your ear. We'll know somehow. And now let's say hello to Ray Maxwell, longtime friend in the network. Hi, Ray. Former host
Hi,
of
Leo.
Maxwell's House.
Good to drop in and come back for a little visit.
Nice to see you all the way up in BC. Ray is not only a colorist and a hang glider aficionado, and
sailplane, not hang glider.
Oh,
there's a difference.
I meant soaring. Yes, I know the difference. Yes. And he's unpowered flight. He just kind of glides up there. But you drive the lead plane. You drag him up into the air, right?
Oh yeah, I've flown over 50 different types of airplanes and gliders, and I fly the tow plane. Yeah, if the tow pilot isn't there, nothing happens.
Yeah, right. Got to get him up in the air first. Ray's also kind of an autodidact, a polymath, an expert in many, many things, and he seems to love the Mac Pro because every time a new Mac Pro comes out, Ray buys one. Some would say more money than sense. Ray, are you happy with the new M2 Ultra Mac Pro?
Yes, I'm quite happy with it. I knew what I was getting. I knew why I wasn't getting the studio, and later I'll explain all that.
Actually, that's the real question, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also what's known as an early adopter.
Yeah.
I have the last 3 Mac Pros I ordered on the first day they were available. And of course, that means I'm called an early adopter. Some people call me a fool, and others call me an unpaid beta tester for Apple.
Yeah. You probably, I'm guessing, because you're a colorist, have the Pro Display XDR attached to that thing.
I have the XDR attached, and I have two of the Asus ProArts. So I have three. Well, here, have a look.
Oh, look at that. He should be on office hours with you.
Goals.
There. Yeah.
Goals.
I was going to say, we got to get Ray back on.
Yeah.
When are we getting Ray back on?
I have a problem with 6 o'clock in the morning, but other than that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Alex, I do check into after hours off and on. And they, the first thing I did after I got the new Mac Pro was go on after hours and say, is it all working? And work on my video and audio.
Yeah.
That's great.
So you're using the Mac Pro right now to talk to us.
This very moment.
Wow. So M2, tell us the specs of the Mac Pro that you got.
Okay, I got a 128 gig memory, and I got it with 2 terabytes of SSD, and that pretty well. That's
those are your choices
you get.
I'm thinking you didn't. Did you get the 76 core GPU for $1,000 more, or did you settle for 60 cores?
I settled for 60.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you do? Are you doing color with this thing or what?
Oh yes, I'm doing a Photoshop, Final Cut Pro, DaVinci, Resolve. All the bits and pieces, and there's a number of other. Yeah.
So I'm just spec'd it out in the U.S. You're in Canada, but in the U.S. That would be $8,199. It does include a mouse, but does not include wheels. Did you buy the wheels?
No.
Okay.
I did not buy the wheels.
Okay, so I will not add the $400 wheels.
It is a static Mac Pro.
It just sits there. It don't roll nowhere. I have to say the design is nice. Is this identical to the old Mac Pro case?
The case is virtually identical. From the outside, you can't tell the difference.
Okay. From the inside?
From the inside. Let's start. Now, I'm doing the transition from the 2019 Mac Pro, which is Intel-based, to the 2023, which, of course, is Apple Silicon-based. And so let's first have a peek inside my
look at that
2019 Mac Pro.
Okay.
And starting down at the bottom is the power supply. And then the next thing up is I had an internal, against Alex's advice, I have a 32 terabyte RAID array from Promise. And then the next thing up is I have the dual GPU card, the Radeon Pro Vega 2 Duo. And then the next thing up is the Afterburner card, which is the ProRes decoder. And then there's a blank slot shown in this picture, but there was a Blackmagic 4K Decklink Extreme 12G video I/O card. That's my that's my universal video in and out. It'll do SDI, HDMI, composite, you name it. And so that is what we started with.
I do want to, before you go to the next one, I do remember you had problems with the Promise card initially, right? In fact, they did the Ray Maxwell fix.
I'm very proud of the fact that when the 2019 Mac Pro came out, there were 2 system software updates immediately after it was released, due to my discoveries.
Yeah. You broke it first, is what you're saying. Yeah.
You found the rake in the tall grass. You stepped on that, and your broken nose saved everybody else's.
right
and
smack
I will
in
say-
my face, you know. Anyway, it.
Hold on
I
a second,
found
Alex.
that-
You wanted to?
I was gonna, there were 2 updates, so that rake hit him twice. So anyway, but the but I think that Ray shows like what the target Mac Pro user. You can see that using up all that card space and putting those in. I
All
mean,
that
that's
space.
the difference between the Studio and the Mac Pro.
Let's see the new one, Ray.
All right, just a moment here.
So remember, it's a lot more open in there.
Oh yeah. Now this is the way it came. This is not with my cards
You're
in
gonna
it.
stick
yet.
stuff in there, yeah.
All right. Now my plan was to put the Ray in here, and to put my Blackmagic video card in here. And then there's a third card that I was going to buy. I'll tell you about that later, that I wanted to put in here. But as I looked at this very picture, before my new 2023 Mac Pro arrived, I said, uh-oh, this isn't going to work. So I discovered my first problem before the thing even ended up on my front porch. And the first problem is if you look at the 2019, it has what are called MPX slots, which are PCI slots with an additional power connector to the left of in this picture. Now, by the way, notice how the motherboard of this new Mac Pro
Pretty clean,
has
huh?
practically
There's
nothing on it.
Yeah, that's really remarkable.
Everything
Look at that.
is in that system on a chip,
Wow.
up under the little metal thing.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, but when I looked at this picture, I said, you know what? My 32 terabyte Promise Pegasus is not going to work because there's no place for the power connector. And so I immediately called Apple and Promise and said, hey, and by the way, if you look at the Apple site, the US site, you will see that they still offer the 32 terabyte Promise Pegasus, and it says will work in current Mac Pro. Not true. Not true, because it doesn't have, the new Mac Pro does not have MPX slots. They're straight PCI. Now they are, what is it called? Class 4, or, the latest, where the 2019 was Class 3. Anyway, so I called them and I said, is this going to work? And at first they both said, oh yeah, it just needs a PCI connector. And I said, come on guys, look at the picture. It's MPX. and this isn't going to work. And no, that's the J2.
This is not the one. Yeah.
No, the 4i.
Okay. Because I want to see the listing that says it's going to work, because that's,
Yeah.
There it is. But this page is jumping all over on me here. Hold on. I'll scroll down to that.
Yes. No, not there yet.
Not there either. Maybe they took it off.
You're on the US site. There it is.
There it is.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get
32
that.
terabytes. It's sold out.
And
that's the good news.
Now, slide down to highlights.
Yeah.
Whoa, stop right there
Yeah.
and see current version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Current generation. No, that's a lie.
Okay.
Won't work. Now, I talked to Promise and Apple again the second time, and they said, oh, you know what? You're right. It won't work.
Oh, my goodness.
And Promise said, but we have good news. You have a bunch of R4 RAID arrays, don't you? And I said, yes. And
so by
said,
now
well,
they know you pretty well. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
helped them with
Sure, Ray.
2019.
Yeah.
So they said, you realize you can take those 8 terabyte hard drives that are in your RAID array, and you can move them over to an R4 chassis, and they'll work just fine. And by the way, they did. The only thing you have to do is you must install the new Promise Pegasus utility and upgrade firmware and software. Okay.
So you had
Then
to open up the case and take the 4 drives out of there. Is that right?
Yes, that involved a screwdriver and so forth, removing the hard drives, putting them in the holders for the R4 chassis, and they work just fine. Okay, that's the good news.
Do you lose any capability because you're doing that?
No, they run they run it. Keep in mind they go back a while, so they only run at 600 megabytes a second. Okay, but they still run at that. So same speed.
This is your online slow storage. This is not your high speed.
That's right.
Yeah, the 2 terabytes are probably pretty darn fast.
Yeah, the SSD is 6,000 megabytes per second.
10 times faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now this brings us to the third card I want to install in this machine, and that is a card by OWC, which is the 8M2. And this card, fasten your seatbelt, when it works properly, it can go at 26,000 megabytes per second. And you can get it up to 64 terabytes. I think I'm going to get the 16 terabytes.
This is the Excelsior that you're talking about?
That's it.
Yeah. Wow.
That's the card. There's a problem, though. Notice right under the title, directions for 2023 Mac Studio and Mac Pro compatibility, which is known as, whoops, it won't work just yet, folks.
Oh, man.
So I'm now waiting for the next system software. Apple knows about this, and Promise and Apple are working together.
There's going to be another Ray Maxwell fix. Okay.
You got
found that rake.
It's me. Hello, Apple. It's me again.
Yeah. Well, thank God somebody's doing this, right? And I'm sure there will be others following in your footsteps, but good for you for doing this. So,
but can you imagine having that card as your scratch disk for your video
8
work?
Terabytes. Wow. You're going to get the 8.
Well, I'm going to get the 16.
Oh, wow.
But
Yes.
You can go up to
sure. Why stop?
You can go. Yeah, you can go to 64, but that's $10,000.
You've got the Mac with the police pursuit package. That's like the upgrade suspension, the bully bar.
Wow. Okay. So the OWC is probably using somebody else's SSDs in here, I would guess, right? I don't know what they use.
Yeah, have a look there.
But it's really fast. That's amazing.
Yeah. The problem is if you use their soft SSD software,
SoftRaid,
and you install this in a Mac Pro right now, the thing won't boot.
That's too bad.
So
yeah, I'm using
I
have their little M2 box, and I have to use SoftRaid with it. I'm not a fan of SoftRaid, but I guess it's okay. I'm using that on my Mac Studio. That's an external.
If you want the 26 gigabyte transfer rate, you have to use theirs. By the way, the workaround right now is you can buy this, plug it in, and use Apple RAID in the disk utility and set it up, but you'll only get 13,000. And by the way, you have to set it up on another Mac. You can't set it up on the Mac Pro, and then you have to plug it in after you've set it up and striped it with the Apple RAID software.
Okay.
So,
what do you do with all this storage, Ray? That's a lot. What's the total now? I've lost count. I can't add that high.
Yeah, well, if you have cameras that shoot ProRes,
you're doing a lot of drone stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing some drone, and the thing I shoot with the most now is my iPhone 14 Pro.
Really? You had the Hasselblad. You don't shoot with your Hasselblad. You shoot with your iPhone 14 Pro.
Well, it's 48 megapixels.
It is. It's medium format. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. That's hysterical. Do you find the quality is almost as good?
Well, you can go in and pixel peep and, decide that it isn't quite the same. I have the Canon 5D Mark IV as well.
Yeah, that's a nice camera.
And I still have the Hasselblad is now a museum piece.
Isn't that funny? But you took such great images with that. I just, and the depth of focus you were able to achieve. What were you doing? I forgot. There was something clever you were doing.
Well, the big thing was a dynamic range in those days.
That's right.
Yeah, I had that. I can't bring it up quickly, but I had that picture.
I remember
the window
the table
where you could see.
Yeah.
You could see the interior, and you could see white clouds, and it had detail in both ends of the dynamic range.
Yeah.
But nowadays, almost all the cameras can do that.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us more. Give us your thumbnail review of the Mac Pro.
Well, the bottom line is if you need I/O slots and I/O cards you want to add to this,
yes,
then you want the Mac Pro. Otherwise, if you don't need that, by all means, get the Studio. They're exactly, same horsepower.
Yeah. Do you run the deck link in there as well?
Yes. Okay. Yes, you're seeing me through the deck link at this very moment.
That's how you control those all those different monitors.
Yeah, I have the Blackmagic 6K Pro. That's what you're seeing me.
He's in now, Alex. He's in 6K, Alex. That's got to be. Those are fighting words.
Well, I've got 7K.
Yeah.
And we're squishing it down to 720p, by the way. I just want to let you know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the 1080p is still the big player at the moment. But a lot of us are working at 4K or 8K. The 12K I found as be a little excessive. Like I haven't found a lot of use for the 12K.
Well, that's the thing. When you go to 12K, now you need a Mac Pro with 3,000 terabytes of storage and a TechLink card and all that stuff.
Well, the funny thing is the big limit, like with the Blackmagic cameras, is really how to get it recorded. Yeah. So when you record it's getting a drive fast enough, and just the throughput, just the USB-C on the 12K, on the Blackmagic 12K, isn't fast enough to really get us the compression rate that we want at 8K or 12K. If I'm doing like 8K 120, I'm still stuck at about 900 megs a second coming out of that. But it's still
26 gigabytes a second should be fast enough, shouldn't it?
Well, but you can't plug that into the camera. So you're it's getting it out of the camera is the problem at the moment for most of these things. And then once you get into it, you're absolutely right. You have but that drive speed is so important because you're especially if you start stacking, you got 3, 4, 5 tracks of data, and then you're starting to apply, and this is where you start applying effects and you start doing other things. But that drive speed, delivering those frames to the CPU is a big deal. So that speed is really key.
Ray, you've been doing this even longer than I have. Is it kind of still thrilling to you to see how much power you could put on your desk, how much storage, how much speed?
Oh, absolutely. And AI is, I'm just the selection capability in Photoshop and on my iPhone now, the ability to point at something and select it. I used to spend 20 minutes selecting something in a photo, and the horsepower and AI, all of this just blows me away. And the generative fill now in Photoshop and
have you played with
Firefly?
I was going to ask about Firefly. Have you played with that a little bit?
Oh, yes. Yes. In fact, when we get to plugging my friend's book, the cover was done with Midjourney.
Let's see this. So you did this cover. This is a book about AI robots, a sci-fi book from a good friend of Ray's. Take down the lower third so we could see his name. Guy Emega. Super Earth Mother, and you did that in Midjourney. Alex probably would have recognized it. He's the Midjourney guy here.
Definitely looks like great Midjourney work.
Great Midjourney work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're using 5.2 now, Ray?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
He did it. I did.
Oh, he did it. Oh, nice.
Yes, he did the cover.
Illustrators all over the world are grinding their teeth as we speak.
Oh, I know. This is, talk about the looms and the Luddites.
Yeah. Here they come with their bats. Yeah.
Here they come.
What's Guy's book about? This is a friend of yours you actually went to school with.
I went to school with him at the University of Missouri. We met in the Ham Radio Club.
Oh, wow.
And we both are engineers, and he ended up moving to Vancouver, lives here in Vancouver. And after he retired, he started writing hard science fiction. Everything in his science fiction is possible. And in this book, I want you to imagine that we're at a time when things aren't going so well here on Earth, and there's a moon base, and there's a kind of interesting character who has built a rocket ship that can travel between the stars, and he has built an AI, several AIs, that are going to care for a library of genetic material and some incubators, if you will, to incubate this new genetic material. And he will modify the AI will modify the genetic material to suit the exoplanet that is 20,000 years away. And so they're going to send this ship on a 20,000-year trip. And when it gets there, it's going to create human beings that are adapted to this new exoplanet. Now, what could possibly go wrong?
And by the way, the entire thing is exclusive on Amazon Kindle right now through the end of August. So if you want to read it, it's Kindle Select. And then the print book and the ebook comes out everywhere September 1st. You can go to Kinetic. I think this is his site, right? kineticworlds.net. Guy Omega. Yes. Yeah. And read all about it.
He ever since he was in the Peace Corps in Niger, Africa, he goes by Guy.
Guy. Oh, pardonnez-moi. Guy Emera. Actually, Guy is great, not Guy. I like Guy. Good for him. And you can call me Leo. So, Ray, if somebody came to you and said, all right, I want to buy the most powerful Mac I need, would you approve of a purchase of a Mac Pro, or would you steer him towards the studio? I think you'd probably steer him towards the studio, yeah.
Yeah, I would steer him to studio unless he needs PCI I/O, because that's what the Mac Pro is all about. If you want PCI I/O, or you want these super fast SSDs to plug in, then you're going to need to go to the Mac Pro. And here's the bottom line. This thing is anywhere from 2 to 7 times faster than the 2019 Mac Pro.
Wow.
And of course, you can put much faster storage in it than the 2019, because, by the way, it's only class 3. And so, the new 2023 Mac Pro is going to get you up to 26,000 megabytes per second with this OWC.
Yeah. Just amazing.
At any rate, all of this speed and stuff. I mean, again, I go back to 80 days and 400K 6-inch floppy disks. and this just blows my mind. And that's why I'm an early adopter.
It's fun.
The last 3 Mac Pros I bought them on the first day they were available for order.
Is there anything you feel like you can't do with Apple Silicon that you were able to do with your Intel Mac Pro?
I haven't run into it yet. I am very pleased with how all of my Intel-based software runs.
Rosetta 2 is remarkable, isn't it? It's just remarkable.
Yeah. And of course, most of the major apps, all of the big apps that I'm running, they're all universal, right? And they're all ready. The transfer over was quite easy using the migration assistant.
Good.
And I haven't hit any problems other than the one problem I missed telling you about was I did have problems with the Blackmagic card. This was really weird. I still don't know how we fixed it. I hate that. I put the Blackmagic card in, and the system software said, "Yes, I see the card," but the desktop video card or desktop video software from Blackmagic said, "I can't find the card." And so I called up Blackmagic, and they were very helpful, and they know me as well. And at any rate, they said, well, go back a couple of versions and let's try that. And we went through 2 or 3 different versions. And then he said, okay, go back to the latest version. We went back to the latest version and suddenly it worked.
Oh, I love computing. I swear to God. That's just nuts. Which deck link again was that? The 8K?
That's the 4K. 4K. Deck Link Extreme 12G.
Okay. So if you're having trouble getting it working, go to an older version of the software, then go to the newer, and everything should be just fine. It sounds
that's what happened.
Plausible, but yeah.
I hate that when that sort of thing happens.
Yeah. There was, a little. It just you need a little. It had a little hitch in its get along, and you just need a little nudge to just get going. Well, Ray, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I miss working with you on Maxwell's House. I think I'll have to bring that back in the club. We're bringing back a lot of the older shows in the club. But I'm just thrilled that you're still buying the most expensive computers out there.
and by the way, on the first day that Vision Pro is available, you know who's got to place an order.
Okay. We're going to count on you early 2024 for your review of Vision Pro, Ray Maxwell. And I want to hear how accurate the color is, because that's Ray's real field here.
Ray, if I can be a spoil sport here, you realize that. Are you really testing it if you're not able to be wearing a Vision Pro while also looking at another Vision Pro objectively? I really think you should buy 2 of them.
You need two.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any other Macs, or is this the only Mac that you use?
I have another laptop. I have the. By the way, you were looking at images from my iPod Pro.
What? Wait a minute. What? Your iPod?
Yeah. Sorry, iPad.
Oh, God. I was really confused now. Well, I've figured out a way. If you revert the version on the iPod, you can get it to show pictures. Okay, your iPad Pro. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And what are you switching? What are you switching cameras with?
The ATM Mini.
Mini. Okay. Very nice.
You get involved with Alex. All right.
I know.
And you get into
trust me
to after hours and so forth. And everybody asked me, said, "Oh, you're in this group." Said, "What does it cost to join?" And I said, "Oh, it's absolutely free." Of course, after I worked with this group for a while, I think the last count I had spent $8,000.
Yeah, there's a little pressure to keep up with the Lindsays.
I have the ATM Mini. I have the MixPre 3. I could go down the list.
Oh, you and I are in the same boat. I know exactly how you feel.
What about the exchange rate is between a Ray and an Alex? Is it like the Euro where they tried to keep it
they're parity. They try to keep it on par.
Remember, it's even more with me because I'm in Canada.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
Ray Maxwell, what a pleasure. It's great to see you. Thank you for your review of the new Mac Pro. I'm thrilled that you got it and got it all fixed up and working great. And
I'm very happy with it. Everything is clicking ticky-boo. And as soon as I get that OWC card, I'll be a very happy camper.
Oh, yeah. I want to hear about that, too. Thank you, Ray. And maybe we'll see you in after hours on officehours.global sometime soon. Take care. Ray Maxwell, ladies and gentlemen, former host of Maxwell's House, colorist, hang glider, pilot. No, soaring, not hang glider, soaring. Sailplane. Yeah, pilot and man about town. Thank you, Ray. Have a great one. We're going to take a little break. We come back. We have lots of Apple news to talk about as well with Jason Snell, who.
So many Jasons.
You said you stayed quiet in the background there, but I know you were. Were you drooling, or were you just thinking, no, I'm not going to?
I was on a podcast where I referred to the Mac Pro sort of negatively this week. And so I'm glad that there's some equal time over here.
Equal time for the Mac Pro. We'll talk about that. We're going to call you on the carpet after these words from ZocDoc. You know that feeling you get when you finally find the thing you've been searching for on the internet? You spend hours researching and reading thousands of reviews, and you finally find it. This thing, be it, sparkly disco pants, This is the stuff I buy on Instagram late at night. Designer dog hoodies, whatever it is. Just it checks all your boxes. 5 stars, arrives in 48 hours. How is it you can get perfectly machined aluminum pill boxes in just 2 days, but if you want a good doctor, it could take forever to get an appointment? Why is that? And how do you even know if they're good? Where's all the reviews? Well, there is a way. It's called ZocDoc, a place to find and book great doctors who have amazing reviews, many with appointments within 24 hours. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can even filter specifically for ones who take your insurance or are located near you. And it's not just doctors, almost any condition you're searching for, dentists and chiropractors. And I was looking for gerontologists. They got them, all with verified reviews from real patients, actual patients, not bots. The average wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc, 24 to 48 hours. So sure, you can get those disco pants tomorrow. You can get a doctor tomorrow, too. That's it. You can even score same-day appointments. Once you find the doc you want, you can book them immediately with just a few app taps. No more waiting awkwardly on hold with a receptionist. This is, simply put, the best, easiest, fastest way to find the right doctor for you. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak and download the ZocDoc app for free. I know you can get it, just go to the App Store, but would you do me a favor and go to the website? ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. That way they know you saw it here. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. It's free, it's fast, it's easy. Find and book a top-rated doctor today. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. Apple put out a big emergency update yesterday to iOS and macOS. I rushed when I read about it, the rapid security response update. I rushed to my iPad and my iPhone and my Mac to download it, and it was gone. They pulled it. How fast did they pull it? Was it like 10 minutes? It feels like...
I think it was much less than an hour, I think.
It was very quick. And the reason being, what? That it broke some websites. According to reports on Mac Rumors forums and on Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, Zoom, and other websites started giving a warning about not being supported on Safari. Oops. It was a 0-day, actually an active 0-day. That's a little concerning in WebKit. But they did apparently change the Safari user agent to identify it as patched with a parenthesis. And some websites, honestly, you want to blame the website, who are looking specifically at the user agent, said no.
Yeah, but when Facebook and Instagram aren't inaccessible after an update, that's not Facebook and Instagram problem. That's your problem if you pushed out an update like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also why all the browser info is not real, because everybody lies about it because they want to maintain compatibility. Right. And it's like Mozilla, right? They're all like Mozilla. And so, I mean, I get it, but it's weird that whatever string they should have tested, right? Well, let's change the string. Oh, it breaks everything. We can't change the string. And that's a mistake. I was going to make a joke here that their rapid security response obviously means that it's only out there. It's very limited time.
You have very little time. Limited time. Get it quick.
Are you gonna miss it?
I just missed it, and I felt at a loss. I mean,
you're gonna prioritize the 0-day over maybe some last minute testing of things like user string, agent strings in your web browser. But whoops. So
I guess it's a testament to how urgent they felt it was. Right? They saw it was active in the wild. They go, oh, crap, we got to fix this, and they didn't have time to test it. The user agent is how the browser identifies itself to sites it visits. And you can see, as you said, most browsers lie and say they're Mozilla just for compatibility reasons. And apparently these websites were looking, they saw Safari and they saw then parenthesis said, oh dear.
I don't know about you.
Oh, what is this?
I won't serve anything. No.
Which is not the right response either. I guess Apple's probably doing the right thing because they could have just taken the A off and shipped it. And I guess they decided not to do that. Apple says it will be a response which has a parenthesis B in it will be available soon to address the issue. So, okay.
That's way more serious than that moth that Admiral Grace Hopper found.
This is a bug, serious. Baby. Yeah.
But at least now it's easy to like revert for like a rapid security update. Like in the olden days, like once you updated, Apple was like, why would you ever want to undo an update? Because the first time something like this happens and you're stuck with the problem until Apple fixes it, that's when people like by default say, I'm not going to trust a security update until everybody else until the end of the month when I don't need to use this Mac for anything. And that's when it's most critical to actually apply these damn things.
Yeah, this is the one you really want and you want to apply right away. Apple has a page, support page HT213827. If you applied rapid security response iOS 16.5.1 parenthesis A, here's how to roll it back. And it turns out you can just go into settings and remove it.
Yeah.
On the Mac, it's a little bit more complicated. You have to go to About This Mac, then More Information. Under macOS, click the Info button next to the version number, click Remove, and Restart. Click to confirm. Much easier on iOS. There's a Remove Security Response entry in the version settings. So.
I do think that was a negotiated piece inside of Apple, deciding that if we are going to push these things out without an immense amount of testing, we need to make. I will approve this so long as there's a way to undo it in case the patch creates more problems than it solves. Yeah. And I could really see there being an argument about saying, hey, we can't do this without having a real good system in place.
I think you're right. Makes a lot of sense. It's Prime Day. Don't everybody turn off the show at once. There goes John Ashley. We lost him.
So many offers on string lights. Oh my God.
I have not bought anything. Actually, there is a pretty good deal on Amazon. Does this once a year, right? The Prime Day. There is a pretty good deal on an iPad Mini, which is like $120 off, and I like the iPad Mini.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I keep waffling on upgrading my Kindle, knowing that I need something has a USB-C and has a larger screen, but I definitely don't want another Kindle. And every time I look at like one of the really nice e-readers that Jason recommends, I'm like, yeah, but for a little bit more, I can just have an iPad Mini, even like a last generation one. I don't care that it doesn't last 30 hours on battery. It's going to be a really nice e-reader, and it can be the thing that I carry when I don't even want to carry my iPad Pro with me. I love that device.
I'm always the Mini is my bedside computer basically because it's small enough. It's a little bigger than a phone,
and it's too small to get you into any trouble. Like I'm not going to start a project. I've started projects on my iPad thinking that I'm just going to read comics. I just need this big screen, and then hey, what if I just open up the Ulysses and just jot down these couple notes, and then hey, it's 6 a.m. and I need to be somewhere 2 hours. Okay.
Is there such a thing as too small to get you in any trouble? I don't. I get in trouble with the smallest things, I believe. Is there anything to read into this price? Is there any reason not to buy it from Amazon? I really
I don't think so.
No?
Apple and Amazon now have a deal that actually
ships
involves
from Apple, right?
Yeah. They cleared, basically they got Amazon to clear a bunch of Apple product resellers of questionable quality out of the store in exchange for making a deal with Amazon and Apple. So that stuff it's pretty solid, and if you get a good deal, it's a good deal. I'm unclear whether there's a new Mini coming or whether it's just that they've got lots and they want to move some, and that they've got Apple. The beauty of being Apple is your margins are so huge that you can discount a little bit if you want to move some stuff out of the channel, and they can manage it.
$120 off. Was $500, now $380. That's the only thing I'm going to mention.
Oh, but Leo, there's another good deal here.
Wait a minute. The Elgato Stream Deck, which we like, 15 key.
Okay, John, how did you know? I literally bought that during the show.
You're kidding.
I did. Seriously, I literally bought that during the show.
I'm about to buy this one, and then there's the one with the knobs for $20 off. That's actually
I bought that one.
With the knobs. You lose a lot of buttons there, and I like automating stuff myself, and like little twisty knobs and stuff are not very automatable. So I'm skeptical of that one. I haven't tried it, but I'm a little skeptical of that, and I wanted a newer Stream Deck, so I got that.
I have it, and you can see that it's not plugged in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I used it.
I'm figuring out, I use it with Resolve. Some of the encoders work. These encoders work pretty well, but I haven't found it in as a general purpose. I actually bought another Elgato right before the show. because I've been using up. I have like 3 Stream Decks right now, plugged into different computers, and I was like, oh, another one.
But wait,
that was my thought too.
But wait, because you could buy it for Amazon or get the same price at Elgato. They're doing their own Prime deals, and you get a little cover for your.
Here's the problem with buying anything directly, and this is the big advantage that Amazon has.
Shipping?
Is Whole Foods.
Oh, Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
You pick your.
If I don't like
pick
it,
your stuff up.
If I don't like
take
it,
it back.
Oh, I know.
If I don't like it, I don't even have to put it back in a box.
Yeah.
I literally take it to Whole Foods and hand it to them. And the money is the credit is put back in my account in like a day, or hours. And it's so seamless that at first I thought I do return a lot more now than I did before. I used to be like, I'll get around to it. Never got around to it. But it's the lock-in is super serious, because if Elgato, I have tried to, I have attempted to return things. Their return policy and the process is
that's a good point.
Than Amazon. So
really, do you really need a faceplate for your Steam Deck? Honestly, I mean,
no, you do not.
So a free $10 face deck is not going to convince you to get it from Elgato instead of Amazon. You're right.
That's what
it's really. I was asking about this. I have never returned anything, but it is a really great way to return stuff. And I think they throw it. Somebody told me they throw it in a container out back. And then
it's a box.
So, you were telling me, yes.
Yeah, they have a big box there, and what they do is they scan your stuff on the way in.
Yeah.
So you have it there. They'll tell you if it's more than a couple hundred or more than like $150, they'll want you to put it back in the box. But if it's less than that, generally they just say bring it back. In fact, they tell you not to put it back in the box. Anyway, so then you hand it to them. They scan your phone. They throw it in a box. The box now has a contents in it. Says what everything's in it.
Random.
And then people bid on these. Or I don't know if they bid on them or Amazon, but people buy the boxes from Amazon. And then they sell them on eBay. That's
when you get old.
There's a business model for people to buy these boxes of used stuff and sell them on eBay. So they're buying them, pennies on the dollar from Amazon. And Amazon has figured out the math that it's better than throwing them away, which is what they were doing before. They're just throwing everything away that you sent back.
And Scooter X tells us, by the way, this just in, the Elgato Stream Deck app for iOS now offers 6 free buttons.
Yes, it's true. It's true. It's silly that they charge for more buttons, but it does mean that if you are a Stream Deck fan and you're traveling without your Stream Deck, you can use your iPhone as a Stream Deck and get 6 buttons.
Free. They're not free on Android. Just want you to know. Okay.
Somebody thank you for reminding me. I just bought a 2 terabyte SSD.
Yep.
I wasn't going to mention Prime Day at all.
It's just it's like there are things that are I don't just scroll through the list. It's more like I'm waiting to buy storage on days like this. I was like, I wanted to get an M2 SSD. Okay, that's half price. That's good. Okay. I'm going to close the window, or else this is going to be.
I can tell you right now.
I'm going to be in the red on this show if I. And we haven't even gone to Alex's picks yet. God dang.
But I don't think you should buy a Mac Pro with a DeckLink card. I'm just saying. I think in the Promise storage, I think you should stay away from that. There is testing in from Linus Tech Tips. I have not seen this video. Who put this in the show notes?
I did actually. I saw it last night, and I thought it was so interesting that I actually generated a transcript so other people could read it.
So tell us about this.
It was a really good in-depth review in that it's not just, it's too expensive and it's not really that much faster. Like they were looking at first, they start with the marketing stuff, the charts about, here's how much faster the M2 is than last year's M1. And here's how faster it is than this Core i9. And pointing out that, I see some graphs here where the legends aren't actually labeled. And I see benchmarks here where you didn't actually explain what the benchmark did.
The famous Apple graphs, right? They're comparing it to an Intel machine from 5 years ago and things.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they were very, I think Linus actually went specifically and said that I'm not quoting here, but that the marketing images here, marketing claims are just malarkey. It's incrementally faster, but not monumentally faster. It's not that much faster than comparable Intel hardware. In many cases, it's slower than comparable Intel hardware.
Oh, that's interesting.
However, there was huge praise for for the power management. Basically,
that's what Apple often does. Is they say power per watt instead of raw power.
They're making the point that the entire Max M2 Ultra Mac Studio consumes less power than just the Intel CPU or just the graphics card in the PC that they built to stack.
But if you're looking for speed and you're plugging it in, you may not care. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was very balanced and fair in that they were basically saying that actually in the first 5 minutes, they said that if all they said was this is more better and more faster, it's the new M2 Ultra Studio, all would be Jake. It was just that they were making specific claims that they couldn't reproduce. Actually, I think that they were also trying to reproduce like the Blackmagic Studio benchmark that they mentioned, and they couldn't reproduce it. And even Blackmagic, when they talked to Blackmagic, they couldn't reproduce it either, they're claiming. So it just seems like a really, really weird set of claims. Again, they weren't saying don't buy it. They were the other point they were making is that if you don't necessarily need a Mac, you can buy a comparably equipped or even over-equipped Windows box for the price of like a top of the line. For the price of a top of the line M2 Ultra Studio, you can get a top of the line Windows box that has easily the same specs and still have $1,700 left for another Mac Mini or an M2 MacBook. And so I thought that was very fair. What I like about it is that
LTT's good.
They were really quick.
But are they anti-Apple? I mean, is there some bias here or no? If everyone has bias, there's no such thing as a lack of bias. And also they are primarily like a PC oriented, largely you'd have to use
thing.
Windows is one of the disadvantages of that box.
Yeah, exactly. And they point this out very fairly that look, if you want a Mac, that's fair point, that's perfectly fine. However, one thing that I really, really respect about them is that they're putting a lot of money into a really expensive testing lab. So it's not just, hey, we ran some benchmarks, we copied down the numbers. It's no, we actually have like commercial testing equipment for power supplies, commercial testing equipment for power consumption and thermals. And so when they make a claim, they at least say, well, here is our data. If we screwed up, it's going to be very clear to everybody how we screwed it up. So they're not just saying, oh, well, rah, Team Windows, Mac sucks. They are, the reason why I put it in the show notes is that it did seem significant that they were very, very firm on the idea that the marketing stuff that you see on the product page is not something that you should even take with a grain of salt, that it does seem to be actively misleading and in some places maybe even deceptive.
The way I view this video is that it's not even a video about a computer. It's a video teaching people about how marketing works.
Yeah.
And in that, I think it's actually valuable. I should disclaim here that a lot of the people who used to work in the Macworld lab work in the performance marketing group at Apple now. And they are doing, I will say this, because I think it is left as a question in that video, they're doing real tests and they're getting real results. Now, let's talk about what Apple markets, right? Does Apple publish all the numbers? No, they don't. They leave it to your imagination. Do they choose the hardest comparison products to compare their product to? No, they do not. They choose the most favorable comparison. Although I would argue that an M2 Mac is probably, in terms of upgraders, it's probably more likely somebody coming from Intel than coming from an M1 because it is incremental from there. So I can understand it, but they're also going to choose the most favorable because it is marketing, right? And then and again, I don't know this from those people. I just know it because I know it from dealing with Apple for many years. Have they done 50 different tests and then cherry picked the 5 that look the best for Apple? Absolutely. And have they done, in this case with the Linus Tech Tip video, have they done a bad job of properly footnoting, which they used to do? I'm going to say it. They used to do a better job of doing this. Properly footnoting and disclosing what test got run and what the configurations were so that you can reproduce the results. And I think the answer here is kind of no, right? Like that the most damning thing in this video for me was that Linus Tech Tips is sort of like, we don't know, we don't understand what this test is or how they got the result. And the problem with that is then you can't reproduce it. So I think that's, like I said, I think this is a good educational video. Everything Apple says in its marketing about the numbers is true, but they only share the numbers that are the most favorable for Apple. And that is always the case. And that's why you should always look to independent sources of information. So in some ways, what this video is learn about marketing and why we spend a lot of money doing our own lab testing. And to that, I've got to give them credit. The PC versus Mac thing, I rolled my eyes at, because it's like, oh, you could get a PC that does that. It's like, yeah, but if you're buying a Mac, you're probably buying it because you want to use a Mac and not a PC. But the rest of it, I mean, that's the truth of it. It's marketing. I am always, when I'm watching an Apple presentation, I am always noticing, like, what did they choose as the comparison computer? And and you've seen it with the M1 and the M2, especially the M2. They talk a lot about Intel computers, partially because a lot of upgraders are coming from Intel, but also that's a bigger number, so it's better for marketing purposes.
Yeah, and there are a lot of times during a keynote, whereas I will literally put like a symbol that means, wow, what an interesting way of phrasing that they chose. I'm going to look into this. I will say, however, I do think this went a little. Marketing is marketing. You're absolutely right that they're always going to. The purpose is not to produce an independent set of test results to get a certification from the FCC or anything. It is to get people excited about getting this new product. But I always think about these things though as like, committing a foul, like in basketball. It's like, okay, you played high contact basketball. That's professional sports. But then, okay, you drove an elbow right into somebody's eye socket. At this point, I'm going to have to flag you on that, which that's severe playing hardball.
Yeah. And So the thing about the footnotes, I mean, I think that's the key to this performance marketing is, it ought to be reproducible and understandable, even if you're cherry picking, right? Even if you're choosing comps that are the easy comps instead of harder comps. It's marketing, we get it. But when you put numbers down, there should be enough information attached, and they footnote everything. If you've ever looked at an Apple reviewer's guide or an Apple website, there are so many footnotes. And sometimes I look for the footnotes and I can't find them, which is very weird, right? Where it's like, wait a second, where's small number 6? It's not, I can't find it. But if you're going to do this with performance marketing, that's where you get into trouble, I think, is when you make a claim and somebody like Linus Tech Tips is looking they're trying so hard to understand what you're claiming and they can't figure it out. That shouldn't happen. You should be able to look at the footnote and get the answer of what they did. And that's the most troubling thing in this whole report to me is like when they and Blackmagic can't verify a Blackmagic test.
Yeah.
What is that about, right? Like, that's not great.
Yeah, this isn't like some YouTuber like running a Cinebench and saying, "Oh my God, the Cinebench scores are terrible," and then like right in the comments is like, "Yeah, you do know that the Cinebench test has not been optimized for Apple Silicon yet, and maybe it's not a good metric to use."
Well, even in this video, he's running stuff that's not optimized for metal in some cases. This is the hard thing. I mean, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that almost nothing's been optimized, and so the thing is that there's been a lot of stuff that's made universal. It'll run really well on the M1, but it's not really taking full advantage of the libraries, and that is important. I mean, if you look at, the kind of things that, I go back to Zoom ISO. If you look at what Zoom did, or what the Liminal team did, is they're squeezing an enormous amount of performance out of a Mac Mini. Because they're taking full advantage of they're optimizing and working with Apple to tie all those little things in, and you're getting 8 1080p streams out of a little Mac Mini. And so when you really talk about optimizing, really talking about using the libraries, there's I think that there's still a lot that a lot of developers are leaving on the table for a variety of reasons. Mostly that it's expensive to rewrite all the code into, to optimize it. And it's only part of the market, but universal and optimized and truly optimized, for the platform are two different things. And we're going to continue to see that grow across that platform. And so I think that, it's hard because, any tests are going to show some things to be faster. And I do think, that, I was actually talking to Andy about this a little earlier, which was, you can build a PC that's going to be faster than the Mac Studio. I mean, at a lower price, but you have to build it. It's like you're not going to buy it, and it's it's not going to be as sleek, and it's not going to be a Mac. And a lot of people who are buying it want to have a Mac, and it's important to have these higher end Macs because the people who are buying them, like, there's definitely solutions that I need that require more than the Mac Pro. that they're $20,000 boxes. They've got a bunch of Quadro cards in them. I need the NVIDIA chipsets. I need all of those things. So it's not that Apple is going to give you the highest end of all of those things, but as a Mac user, knowing that I can buy in at $500 and seamlessly go up to about $12,000 and get enough performance for what 90% of the market, maybe 99% of the market needs, is a pretty good. You have to have that whole gamut, and I think Apple's doing that pretty well. I do agree that everybody is finding, every manufacturer is going to find the bench sets that make the most sense for them. And that's why there are magazines and other things and Linus Tech Tips.
Unfortunately, there really aren't the magazines anymore. And the sites like Anon Tech and Extreme Tech and Tom's Hardware Anon is still doing benchmarks. I having worked with Patrick Norton for years, and he used to work at CD Labs and was their benchmark guy. I really know that benchmarks lie just as much as statistics and marketing graphs, and it's very difficult for an end user to know. And
I don't know how much I'll be honest. I just don't know how much they matter. That's the point. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much. Like when we say, "Oh, well, this is faster." Well, I know that all I know is my Mac Studio, which is the first version of this Mac Studio, and only a Mac's is one of the fastest machines I've ever had. And it does all the things that I need it to do. And now I know that they're releasing one that is incrementally better than the one that I have. And when I upgrade, I'll upgrade to that. I think that the other thing about Linus Tech Tips is they're like, are you going to choose for them? Linux, PC, Mac are all just outputs. They're even hardware. To them, because they mostly use PCs and Linux, and the Mac is something that they jump into.
I'm going to go a little farther. I think if you're watching any YouTuber, all this stuff is optimized for clicks, not for content.
Right.
And sure. And so, the title of this is Apple Fans Start Typing Your Angry Comments Now. The thumbnail, of course, is all of Linus's LTT's videos, is some aghast. I mean, he does look, I'm not saying he doesn't do a great job, and I'm not saying he does not now have the resources of even something like ZD Labs, but I also think there's an editorial slant to this that you can't.
It's marketing, actually.
It's marketing. You can't ignore.
I guess what I'd say, though, is that just to take it slightly more gently, is I'll say, his primary market are PC users, and number one, and number two is that he is again assuming that these are like, you're going to make a choice based on performance and price about whether you're using a Mac or a PC, which from a PC and Linux user view might make sense, but Mac users are using Macs. And we just want to know that they're going to be powerful enough to do what we want to do. And so like we're not really.
If you're using
then you have to use a PC.
If you're using a cross-platform tool, you're using DaVinci Resolve or Photoshop, it's reasonable to ask. Because our editors use Windows. They're not really using Windows. They're using Premiere, and they very rarely see Windows. It's reasonable to say what's the best machine to run this particular program. That's a different group of people than most of us who are saying, "Well, I'm going to run a variety. It's a general purpose PC for me, and I want good performance, but I also want fit and finish. I want an operating system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera."
Well, Leah, when you say that the benchmarks are not necessarily fair, I think that what's interesting about it is to think of benchmarks as being objective, but the choice of benchmark as being subjective. I mean. And that's the truth of it, right? Like
it's lies, and damn lies, statistics, and benchmarks. And
everybody has a different weight or different specific benchmark that matters to them. So like when I have to review systems like this, and I choose a bunch of things, and I choose, Geekbench, which is a very general, gross tool, but it is real in the sense, like, is this fast or not? You want to check that kind of stuff. But, personally, and I will do this sometimes, I like an Isotope de-reverb, which is a very specific audio plugin that I use because I do podcasts with people in echoey rooms. And I spend hundreds of dollars trying to get the echo out. And, a tool like that, or one of the other Isotope audio plugins, or a different audio plugin, to me is like the number one reason to upgrade my system. And somebody else will have Alex has a different number one reason, and a number two, and a number three. And that's the challenge with all of this. And it goes to Apple too, where Apple's got its rank, and what it's just trying to do is, put itself. I had a conversation with an Apple PR person a few years ago where she straight up said, look, my job is to sell. I'm a salesperson, right? Like PR is not, don't imagine that it's anything but sales. That's what it is. And they are going to market the numbers that work best for them. And that's just how it is.
I am going to add to that every successful YouTube channel is designed to attract hits. So much more so almost now than even magazines and websites were. And so there is also a perverse incentive there. I mean, look at these thumbnails. These guys are not just however they play themselves. None of these guys, none of the big YouTubers are honest actors in the sense that, I mean, they're really, in order to succeed, they really have to say stuff that's going to get people, upset and interested. And I think LTT is very good, but I think that there is a lot of opportunity to slant stuff. Is the primary point of this one that you can get an NVIDIA 4090 and it's going to outperform the Mac? Is that? No. That's not
the primary point is simply that there are claims being made that in the early part of the video, I think he actually even puts it in context of like, this is the sort of thing we would call out a Windows PC maker for, or a graphics card.
They're right to do that.
And so therefore, and I do want to add a personal opinion that you are correct that obviously that the business of YouTube is to make sure that you build and sustain and grow an audience and that you can monetize that audience. If you are starting out, you do have to do, I think that you are someone is very likely to do very extreme things. There are a couple channels I will not name that keep popping up in my recommendations where it's always shocked, like, oh, the Vision Pro sets fire to farm with baby ducks. And like, okay, you have no credibility and you're squandering what little credibility you have with sensationalism. The problem, I think that with Linus Tech Tips, again, my personal opinion is that they've spent a lot of time doing a lot of hard work and now they have a reputation. So if they were to just simply say, oh God, oh God, is this really another Mac? Let's do a hit piece on Mac. Hit pieces on Mac really play off really, really well. They're going to start to burn off that kind of stuff. And that sort of stuff you don't get back. And also they're being very thorough and they're showing their math. They're not just simply offering personal opinions. Thirdly, that there is a difference between a point of view and a bias. I think they have a point of view, but I don't think they necessarily have a bias that way. And I think that it's important to talk about people who it's important to have in the collection of reviews, people who review it on the basis of, I'm not necessarily going to look upon this as this is one of the three computers I can possibly buy because I need my next computer to be a Mac. As a outfit that games on everything, that works on everything, that edits video on everything, we are going to create our own benchmarks, because if we don't understand what Apple is doing and getting these numbers, we're going to create actual project workflows so we can try to do an apples to apples. We're going to create an Xcode project to try to do an apples to apples project to find out like where these numbers go. So again, I do see the equity, and while I'm sure that they would choose a title and a thumbnail to get people to click, like if you're subscribed, if it gets recommended, once you get into the video itself, I tend to trust what they say. I don't always agree with it, but I tend to respect what they say.
Well, okay. If the point of your video is don't trust Apple's marketing numbers, okay.
On this one, yeah.
I think I just said that, and I think we've said that all along. I don't think that needs to... Okay, fine.
Yeah,
this video I feel bad for people who are trying to suss this out, because it's hard to find these days objective numbers anywhere. And I think YouTubers really have a strong incentive to drive traffic. And that does, as we've said, benchmarks can be, the benchmarks and numbers are not lies, but the way you choose and use them can mislead. And there's a lot of incentive to do that. And so I'm pretty mistrustful. I know LTT is good, but I'm very mistrustful of YouTubers and their reviews, because there's a perverse incentive there. That's all I'm saying. I mean, and I can say that because we don't have a perverse incentive, because we don't give a goddamn crap if you watch our videos or not. So,
well, I mean, we podcasters tend to be a subscription relationship where you have a long-term relationship.
Our relationship was with the audience, exactly.
And YouTubers would love to have a subscription relationship, but even the subscription relationship and the notification, touch that bell relationship, YouTube's algorithm overrides all of it. And in the end, they have to make their business that way. It's a tough business to be in. And I think that actually, in the grand scheme of things, what you want are YouTubers that play the game, but then drop the game as quickly as they can. And so that LTT video, I think, is a good example of that, where it's kind of probably not the angle that they would take if they weren't trying to get attention. And the thumbnail is what it has to be in order to, work in the algorithm. And I would argue the top of the script is a little more inflammatory. And then the further you go in the video after they've got you, it's perfectly reasonable, right? But that's the game that they have to play, and that is a tough business to be in. And knowing some YouTubers,
it's murder.
If you don't play the game, you will not make it. You have to do it. That's how
the
it is.
Perverse incentives I'm talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a little break, and then we will talk about the fact that Apple, as a $3 trillion company, doesn't really care what Linus says.
We're going to take the headphones jacks off of everything from now on.
Yeah, right.
We're unstoppable. We're answerable to no one but God, and we're even putting a buyout offer on God.
Our show today brought to you by AG1. Love my AG1. What a great way to start the day. It's the daily foundational nutritional supplement that supports whole body health. I, like you, I bet, want to support my health, but I don't want to incorporate more pills and God forbid, drink something that tastes awful. Through a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients, AG1 delivers comprehensive support for the brain, for the gut, and the immune system. Since 2010, AG1 has improved their formula 52 times. They are in the relentless pursuit of making the best foundational nutrition supplement possible. Super high quality ingredients, rigorous standards. AG1 has become part of millions of daily routines. Individual supplements can really add up, but AG1 saves you time, confusion, and money. Each serving costs less than $3 a day when you subscribe, and it's all in there. AG1 makes it easier for you to take the highest quality supplements, whether it's to improve your digestion, to support your sleep. AG1 is the best bang for your buck. One scoop. AG1 is a simple, drinkable daily habit, and I love the little pouches for traveling. So if you're looking to take ownership of your health with a simpler, effective investment, start with AG1. AG1, try today and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase of a subscription. Go to drinkag1.com/MacBreak. New address. Please use this one. drinkag1.com/MacBreak. AG1, a great foundation for better health. And it tastes great. AG1 at drink.ag1.com/MacBreak. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. All right. I didn't want to get, I know there are very devoted fans of LTT, and I don't want to knock LTT. They do a great job. I just want to say, consider the source, right? That's all.
I respect that.
It's tough. I mean, I really miss the days when you had, Anand actually went to work for Apple. They still do. I think they still do good geeky benchmarking and stuff like that. But it's just hard for anybody to look at the benchmarks and understand what they mean. And as you say, Alex, it's much more than just raw speed that or power per watt that we're talking about. It's a whole experience.
Yeah. I think that the thing that I often do, because I have, again, PCs, and we have in the office, we have lots of PCs and Linux and Apple. And when I'm thinking about my own personal setup, I'm mostly considering my time. Like how long does it take me to do everything?
You bet.
And as soon as I add my time in, then the price points all change because of the amount of time it takes to set up one thing versus another.
Yeah. My, at home, just for my bona fides, I got a Mac Studio on my home desktop, Mac Studio on the left. I've got an AMD-based, NVIDIA-based machine on my right, which does not run Windows, runs Linux. And I would say I spend more time on the AMD machine these days than I do on the Mac. Of course, I have a Mac laptop. This is a Linux in front of me. I'm pretty ecumenical when it comes to operating systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As you are, I know, Andy. You carry an Android device,
And it's great when being ecumenical, like you say, is great because it really makes you appreciate the strengths of a MacBook even more, or the strengths of an iPad or an iPhone even more. And it also makes you appreciate its specific failings. But again, you have specific reasons behind it where you can say, oh God, there's this feature on Android that I wish I could do on the iPhone, but I can't.
Well, for instance, if you joined the hot new Threads, you would probably be better off doing it on an Android device because you can be in the beta and try new features that you cannot try on iOS. There's an example. We don't need to talk about Threads. This is a Mac show, but it is the hottest thing going right now.
Yeah, it's no wonder, because Facebook is already the largest social media network in the world, and they created this app that doesn't simply say, oh, thank you, welcome. We're going to try to make you feel at home here. Here's a tour. And if you want to post something, it's like, hi, welcome to Threads. Hey, here's everybody that we think you know. Click this button to follow all of them. They'll be notified. And hey, here's 1,000 people you can invite to have. Well, it's kind of to Jason's point. When Facebook started, and I guess when YouTube started, we didn't have algorithmic feeds. And what these companies have absolutely learned, and TikTok is a perfect example, Twitter didn't have algorithmic feeds in the beginning, is if you go to a site and it requires you to figure out who to follow, and you have to do it well to get a good experience, that's not the ideal experience. So unlike the way Twitter launched, Threads launches with a TikTok-style algorithmic feed. And actually, I liked it at first because I could add the people. Oh, they're there. That's nice. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's good. And this is to your point exactly, Jason. Algorithm is starting to trump relationship, but I understand why. It's just a lot easier to get started.
Yeah, their argument is that the algorithm, once you implement it, engagement goes up, and that's true. Although I think we all know that the road to hell is paved with increasing engagement. Right? There is a limit to it.
We were just talking about that.
And there's value. There's value to both, right? I think that's the thing that Threads right now, they say there will be a non-algorithmic version that you can look at too, but it's like there's value in both, and people can find value in both. Like,
you know what the real value is? It's rehabilitated Mark Zuckerberg's reputation. We hated Mark. Then along came Elon and said, hold my beer.
Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg stands still, don't move, don't blink, just stand there and let Elon Musk rocket past you. And there you go. Now suddenly, also Instagram, let's talk about, just briefly, they laundered this through Instagram.
Oh,
Instagram always has felt less awful than Facebook. I know lots of people who despise Facebook who still use Instagram because I'll say, but you're still on Instagram, and the answer is, well, yeah, it's not as bad as Facebook. And it's like, it's the same company, but they're right. It does seem to have a different set of I don't want to say values regarding Facebook in any way, but a different set of decisions that they're making.
Instagram has already gone farther down the enshittification trail, though, right? Instagram has turned into a nasty ad-based. I mean, it used to be every 10th post. Now it's like every third post there's an ad.
There's a lot of desperation in the ads in there. But anyway, so they wrap Threads and Instagram, and I think that they do that in part in order to make it not as bad as if they wrapped it in Facebook.
You couldn't have an easier onboarding experience as well, because you just, it's bad in one respect because you're taking your Instagram handle and account with you, but go ahead, Alex.
Well, I don't know how many people also did what I did, which was I don't want to lose my handle. Like that's my whole thing. Is like I have my name. Yeah. I want my hand. So every time there's a new social media thing, I jump on, I establish my handle, and then with Threads, I jumped on, I made sure I had my handle, I played with it a little bit, and then I deleted it off my phone because I like my battery. And so I was just like, I don't have any Meta tools on my phone. I still use them on the web. Here and there, but I don't put them on my phone because my battery lasts so long now. Like it's like, I don't care what anyone says. Like when I take the Meta apps off, my battery lasts longer. I don't have any paranoia about it. I don't have any, there's no upset. I just like my battery to last, and whatever they're doing, they're tying up a lot of battery power.
So Threads is 17% of my battery usage.
All of your battery usage.
All of it, yeah.
One app.
The Ford app to get into my car is 11%. TikTok's 10%.
Right.
Yeah. So between those three, a third of my battery is used by those three apps.
Chrome's feeling pretty good about itself right now.
That is, though, the real Phil Schiller on Threads. I don't know if Apple's created an account yet. What was interesting about Threads is how many news brands and consumer brands immediately jumped on. Like they were happy to get off Twitter.
Everyone's like, they want to get off Twitter, but it feels a little like jumping off the pan and into the fire.
Well, that'll be interesting to see.
It's choice between two.
Schiller deleted his Instagram account, and so he must have recreated it. He also nuked his Twitter account, but he is Phil Schiller 007. And by the way, happy birthday to the App Store. 15th birthday today, and iOS Today did devote their entire show to the celebration.
Omni Group had a nice blog post about being like, I think either one of the very, very, very first apps on the App Store, but also like the first like #1 top amazing seller when they had the iPhone version of OmniFocus on it.
Yeah.
And no wonder they are a marvel of Mac and iOS development.
We were not here on the 4th of July. I hope you all in the U.S. had a good celebration, and I'm sorry to the
fingers check, everybody. Fingers check. Yep. 10 for everybody.
All 10 of them.
10.
Alex,
there you go.
You seem like growing up, you might have blown things up out in the cornfield. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
When you're a horrible story about that. Anyway, so
he doesn't want to tell it though, does he?
No, when I was 18 years old, I'll tell a story. I guess I can tell the story now. When I was 18 years old, my father was a federal prosecutor, and I was, I lived in the country, and so an FBI agent took me out for my birthday when I was 18 years old. He just said, my present for you today is to remind you that when you're under 18 and you're blowing stuff up, you're precocious. And when you're over 18, you're a felon. and he goes, and we have a file on you about this thing.
Ooh.
And he goes, anything that goes boom within 50 miles of your house, you show up on the short list.
You are the usual suspect. Yes. Okay.
What a scalawag.
So that was it. I've had no experience since then. But before that, I will say that I was precocious. I
have a dear friend who grew up in the cornfields of Nebraska, and they actually had stadium seating. They built stands out in the cornfield for the 4th of July, and they would have quite a. I think it was his uncle, Three Finger Fred, who was the ringmaster.
My uncle saw me going down that path, and he just said, I only have this advice. He goes, no metal, no glass.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I burned myself a lot. I still don't grow hair on parts of my legs, but anyway,
yeah,
my shins are perfectly smooth from a blast that was a little too close. So don't worry.
Alex, there's a kind of fun with computers that I stopped engaging in like around 18 or 19 because I didn't have the talk. I had that revelation that, I'm not a precocious teenager who's simply exploring with computers. I'm an adult who is possibly,
exactly.
Maybe I should just go into programming instead of exploration.
It was really a Henry V moment for me. I had to give up Falstaff and just
sliding doors. There's a version of Alex that's in a cabin in a wood on page 70,000 of his manifesto.
Exactly.
So there were a few stories from last week we didn't get to talk about, but I'll bring up a couple of them. One, Goldman is looking for a way out of its partnership with Apple. We had talked a couple of months ago about the fact that they lost $1 billion on consumer finance, and that's primarily, I would guess, the Apple Card. They're talking with American Express, at least they were last week, according to the Wall Street Journal, to take over all of the consumer stuff except for their high interest rate savings account, Marcus. But they would like to retreat from Apple and credit cards entirely. Yeah.
It's not necessarily a slam against Apple about, it's a bad deal or this is financially untenable. It is like they made a really big gamble into saying we are a financial investment bank and a financial services company. We want to become a consumer bank and we want to issue credit cards. We want to have savings accounts. They made a lot of investments and a lot of purchases and acquisitions based on that in the past 3 or 4 years. And the bill came due and they're like, okay, we're out. This is not where we don't have a plan for turning this around. And so therefore it's best that we just simply fold.
I don't think don't necessarily have a mechanism for it. Like, I think that the thing is that to do this consumer business, the consumer business is hard everywhere. Every time you start saying, I want to sell to an average person who's going to be measuring things in single dollar units or $10 units, you have to be extremely efficient, to make that actually turn out. When you deal with businesses, when you deal with large investments, there's a lot of wow and flutter that can protect you. But so many small transactions are super, super hard to do efficiently. And the companies that do it well. And the company trying to get into it, I think they found a little bit harder. I think it was good for Apple because Apple has figured out a lot of things, and we can see Apple continuing to add features. I think they also may be looking at, we're going to put all this investment in, and eventually Apple's going to pull it in house, and then we're not going to ever turn a corner. That Apple's in this process right now, it seems to be building out all the other things that you would need to be a bank.
Goldman was the Motorola or the Intel of Apple's banking strategy. And at some point they're going to do Apple banking.
Yeah.
Or the what was the phone company before it became AT&T?
AT&T.
Yeah, but it wasn't AT&T.
Singular.
They're the Singular.
Did you see BlackBerry?
Yes.
Have you seen BlackBerry?
What a great movie.
So good.
What fun. Maybe not a great movie, but a lot of fun. Really fun.
I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was fun. I mean, it really was a lesson in so many things.
The story of the rise and fall of the BlackBerry, research and motion. And they meet with Singular in AT&T. Yeah. Trying to sell them the BlackBerry. And it really was, they showed the iPhone just killing it dead. You know who was smart? One of the three founders,
the one that was crazy,
the crazy guy with a headband, the hippie. As soon as the iPhone came out, he sold his RIM stock, and he's a billionaire.
Yeah, they said he's quietly one of the richest people in the world.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, exactly. Hysterical. Let's see. There's a lot of rumors. We guess we should probably cover these. Apple, according to Mark Gurman, is going to have to. Well, first of all, it's going to launch in stores, and you're going to have to make an appointment to buy one. Apple plans, this is from Gurman, a slow appointment-only rollout of its Vision Pro. You will have to get measured. You will have to go in and give them your eye prescription. There's going to be a lot. They are not going to sell it, it sounds like they're not going to sell it online. Gurman,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Gurman also says Apple's cheaper model will not be out next year, will not be out in 25, will be out in 2026. So this is a long runway for this jet to take off.
We all knew that, and I think that it makes perfect sense that they're going to have, when they sell these the first Vision Pro, it's going to have to be a concierge process, because Apple, one of the hallmarks of Apple through every generation has been, we want the consumer to have the best experience possible. If we see a nail sticking up that they might catch on or step on, we're going to hammer that thing down. And there's so many opportunities for someone to sign for a box off of FedEx, try to get this thing working, not have a great experience because they didn't get the right eye interface, they didn't get the right eyeglasses things, they didn't get a great first 30-minute demo walking them through, like, here is what we're doing. Hey, look, I'm also in the space with you because I'm also wearing this, and I can show you like how you can actually activate things. They need to make sure that the people who spend $3,500 for this and then blog about it or make YouTube videos about it, or even just people who are just excited consumers, don't simply say that, oh wow, I could have just gotten a Quest. This doesn't work anything better than anything else.
And this is not a move that you make if you're going to sell tens of millions of something, right, but it's a move you can afford to make, and in fact maybe even want to make when you're resource constrained. You can only sell a few 100,000 of them total. So you limit, you make an appointment, you limit the regions and the stores that might even offer them. I don't think Gurman's report says they're not going to sell them online, but they were acting at WWDC like they were going to sell them online too, but like in store, they're gearing up for this very complex concierge style process. And I think that's why, is because they can afford to, and it actually kind of helps gate the availabiliability. And I think that's important because they don't have very many. They won't have very many.
And remember when you got Glass, they fitted you.
Absolutely.
I mean, I had to go into the Google glass office in San Francisco, and they did the whole setup and put everything together. So, it's not an unusual thing to do, actually.
Right. Yeah. And this also from the Financial Times, citing unidentified people close to Apple and Luxshare, which is the Chinese firm that's assembling the device. Luxshare said Apple was only asking for enough parts for 130,000 to 150,000 units in the first year. The Financial Times says Apple is preparing to make fewer than 400,000 units in 2024. So they had originally planned 1 million. So, another reason why they're not in a hurry to sell them to you. They don't have that many.
That doesn't scare me at all. I don't think that should scare anybody at all. I think that it makes me interested in how they're going to sell. If they have limited numbers and they are reasonably sure there's more demand than supply, how are they going to choose to allocate these and make sure that, look, we're going to have there's a percentage that we're only going to be able to sell. We're only going to sell through developer channels, so that they're going to make sure that there are people who are not just buying it, doing a video, or having fun with it on the yacht on 4th of July weekend and then putting it in a box and never using it again. Each one of these is an investment for Apple in future experiences and future developers. And so if they only have a couple 100,000 to sell, which is peanuts, particularly when you think about the volumes in which Apple usually transacts hardware, it seems as though it would behoove them to make sure that it goes into the hands of people who can do the most good for Apple.
I think they're going to prioritize it based on the people at 5 a.m. that are sitting there going refresh, 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 refresh. I think that's going to be because there's a whole bunch of people that are going to sit there just grabbing onto it, trying to get a hold of it.
Or maybe they'll be like Ferrari, where it's going to be like, well, we can't sell you an F1 unless in the past 3 years you've bought this car, and this car. Maybe that's how they're going to sell all those those Mac Pros now, where it's like, well, we only want our most valued customers. So,
no rumor that's going to happen. There is a rumor that the Apple's working on according to Goldman, larger than 30-inch iMac, but don't expect it until late next year. It's more than a year out. I think some people will be disappointed by that. I think most of us have just grown accustomed to the idea that we'd buy a Mac Studio or a Mac Mini and a nice screen and be done with it.
I think my question about this product rumor is, who wants an iMac that's that big and doesn't just want to buy an external display?
Right.
Like, what is the market for that? And I'll tell you, because I don't know, but I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to ask another question here. When I have talked to Apple people in the past about the iMac, what they've always said is, you got to understand the iMac sells, it's the most popular desktop Apple sells, and they sell a lot of them. It's actually pretty big business, and they go to weird places. Some of them go to schools. A lot of them go to like reception areas and in hotels.
Yeah.
And like, it's a piece of furniture. Some people park one in their house, even if they've got laptops, because it gives a general purpose computer in their house. The impression I get is that Apple sells more iMacs than you'd think. They're used in a really wide variety of ways, more than many of us sort of like computer expert type people think of. And who would know better than Apple how many they sell and where they go and all of that? And so when I see a rumor like this, and I'm a little bit baffled about why, and I like a big iMac. I had the 27-inch iMac for years. But now that they've got the external display thing going on with little Apple Silicon computers to drive it, seems much more efficient that way. I've got to believe that Apple would not be even talking about making this product if they didn't think they could sell a bunch of them to somewhere.
Yeah.
I just am not sure where that is. The 24 fits. I mean, it literally physically fits in a lot of spaces that the 32 does not. But obviously, like, I'm not going to question this. Like, if it has gone to the point where it's in development, Apple seems to be convinced that they know that there's an audience for it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Just quickly, I'm with you. It's like, if I had heard that rumor from a less reliable source, I'd say, okay, well, a lot of people have lots of ideas about what Apple's going to be doing, but it's a really good source. And the first thing I thought was just like what you thought, was that, okay, obviously Apple has access to better sales numbers than I do. Maybe they're aware of a certain region of the globe in which these big all-in-ones are much, much more relevant product than, like you say, a really nice iMac and a really nice display, because I don't get it.
One of the reasons Apple sold the iMac towards the end was in order to derive a 5K display, they had to have special circuitry, special hardware. 5K was a reach. That's not the case anymore, right? So
yeah. It was their apology for the Quaker Roots box cylindrical Mac Pro. Like, how quickly can we get a high performance Intel super cool machine in the hands of developers who are now mutinying?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Alex about this picture leak on Twitter from David Altizer. Rumor: Apple has been shooting all their Apple TV Plus shows in 180-degree virtual reality. He's using this as the evidence. A leaked photo of a 180 camera rig set on set. First of all, Alex, do you recognize this camera? And second, is this
I recognize
credible?
the warehouse.
Oh,
so the
okay.
So anyway, that's
even
PRG.
better.
Yeah, that's not on a set. So that's a
this is a rental
PRG.
A rental warehouse.
It's a rental house. It's a big event / rental house, PRG, and those are big warehouse. Those are all those road cases that'll get loaded into something. So I don't think that this is shot from a set. I think that they might have sold it as that, but that's not a set. That's PRG's like supply house. They have a bunch of them. They're big. What that looks like is it looks like the Canon R series dual 180 lens on, and it's most likely attached to a Raptor. So the red Raptors, the two big cameras that people are testing right now with those are the R5C and the Raptors, and then you have the dual lenses that both of them are mounted there. So those are the ones that people are playing with. Obviously, the Raptor gives you greater dynamic range. If you were going to shoot something that was at Apple's level, you'd probably end up using the Raptor. If you wanted to experiment, you'd probably use the Canon R5C. I don't have any doubt that Apple is shooting some content with that setup. like I think that they are absolutely. And by the way, the reason that's one lens, it takes those two, it puts both of those images on the sensor together. Then that means they stay synced, and it's a lot easier to process. It has to be a full frame sensor, and it's an 8K sensor. And that means that you have the left, right, that are there all on the same sensor. Otherwise, you have to build a much more complex rig, which have become very valuable in our market.
You mentioned that, yeah.
It's much easier to develop with these two. What I think is most likely happening is that Apple is probably shooting scenes or pieces of scenes or behind the scenes of shows with that rig. And I'd be blown away if they didn't. I would do that. I would shoot little scenes to show you what that looks like, or I would shoot the behind the scenes so you can see what it looked like. I'd be shooting MLS with it. I'd be doing, so there's so many places.
Experimenting though, not shooting all your content that way.
It's so hard. Here's the problem with 360, it's really, really hard. We did a lot of 360, but with 180, it's still hard. Remember that when you're shooting a film, there's a lot of stuff happening right outside of frame. There's flags. There's you've got flags. You've got boom mics. You've got rigging. You've got all these other things that are happening, and usually they're either right outside the frame or sometimes garbage mapped or rotoed because they were in the frame. 180 lens, you get to see all of that, and so it's much less. Now you could clean a set or do something for certain shots that you get that 180, but I think that now as your extra content that
the behind the scenes stuff would be great.
You get your Mission Impossible stuff and you get some behind the scenes shots of it. Wow, that's going to be great. It's going to be so cool to stand there and see in 3D and be able to sit there as if you were watching and looking back and forth. I think that and we're hearing that they're asking for 120 frames a second from a lot of folks, and so the 8K 120 is kind of still the mark that Apple's kind of looking for, which is still higher. I still think that the next version of the Pro headset is going to be 120 frames a second. I think that the 90, what we see in the first form factor, is going to be what the normal headset is. That's less expensive 2 years from now. The Pro will go, I think, up to 8K 120. As far as the delivery method, and so I think that's probably where we're. Anyway, so I think that it would be crazy for them not to be shooting that kind of content, but I don't think that they're shooting like whole shows in it.
It's so telling that even the biggest budget Hollywood movies, they shoot in 2D, and then do a 3D conversion, because shooting in and Alex has talked about this on previous shows, shooting in 3D is very difficult. And generally they don't bother. They just don't bother.
Well, it's what ruined their industry. Like the 3D, when Avatar came out, we were like, wow, I could watch a lot of things this way. And then everyone came in and cheated. And what you ended up with is something like, it's okay. I don't think I want to pay for that anymore.
It doesn't look as good, right? Like you can tell when you watch something that was shot in 3D, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But it also the impression I get, other than James Cameron, is people do it once and then they're like, oh, I'm never doing that again. That's the end of it.
And he has a different budget.
Scorsese made just one 3D movie, but it was a magnificent
Hugo,
3D movie.
It is the best.
And it was with 3D. You think that, oh wow, he's playing with 3D. It's like, no, 3D is absolutely essential to the progression of the story he's telling. But you have very few filmmakers who are using 3D the way the Cameron does, and the way the Scorsese.
This is the iMac 3D camera, and it's a big sucker. It is not.
It's a beast.
Yeah, you're not gonna. I mean, you could take it up on Everest, I guess. But
I saw a viral video the other day, because people are talking about IMAX a lot, because we've got the whole Mission Impossible versus Oppenheimer IMAX thing. Yeah. And I saw a video that was great, because it was from the set of a scene being shot in an IMAX camera. And the thing that you don't realize unless you've been on one of those sets is that the IMAX camera, in addition to being huge and only being able to shoot for a very short amount of time, sounds like a chainsaw. So literally, it's amazing. People are walking down the street and there's an IMAX shot and the chainsaw is going. And they're like, well, if you ever asked yourself, are we going to have to loop every little bit of dialogue in this entire movie? The answer is yes. If
this
it's
is
IMAX.
like the old days of Hollywood. Hollywood changed completely when they had quiet, portable cameras. This is like going back to those old studio cameras. Yeah.
And the 3D stuff is the fortunate thing for people who are doing stuff for vision or anything else is that we did go through this huge sprint where there was a bunch of technology that was built for it, and the controllers and lots of things were figured out, back 10 years ago or whatever. But it's still, I do think that when people see 8K 120, it's going to be something that it's going to make a difference. And what it's so cheap. I mean, it's much cheaper to shoot behind the scenes or shoot certain scenes when you're already doing production, and add that in because you own the production. The hardest part is negotiating all of that 180 and all the extra shooting with a production company that is, going to go out for features. Because Apple is building their own content, they have a lot more. They can say, hey, we would like to do this. We're not asking.
I want to go see Oppenheimer in an IMAX. Cinema. Although AMC, you'd be interested to hear, because people are worried. How do I choose? Barbie, Oppenheimer. AMC is selling double bill Barbenheimer tickets. And they've
heard really a crossover between Barbie and Oppenheimer. That's the only thing I could say.
I would say, the wife might want to see Barbie and the husband might want to see Oppenheimer.
I think that's why sexist? You take someone out to ice cream after you tell them that their dog died. So I do see the wisdom of, hey, let's go see a pink Barbie movie after seeing how the entire planet is now.
I just love them grappling with the non-zero chance that when we set this off, it might not stop. So anyway, this.
I know. I can't wait to see it.
That's one of the great when that Matt Damon is playing like the Colonel. You give him a line like, well, what kind of chances would you like? Ideally, 0 chance that we will kill the end of the world.
Well, what's interesting though is the other pressure really is looking at Mission Impossible. If you want to see Mission Impossible in IMAX, you have to see it this week, because it only got a 1-week window in IMAX because the commitment to Oppenheimer happened a long time ago, a long time before Mission Impossible was scheduled. So I think Mission Impossible got scheduled by Paramount, and they were like, hey, what's the deal with the 1 week? They were like, you came in too late. You were a year too late for that. And so, I would definitely see Oppenheimer in a big screen.
But you don't say no to you don't say no to McQuarrie / Cruise in IMAX. It's like they are people who absolutely love movies, not just, hey, we're gonna have a nice window and before we put this out to streaming. It's like, no, we are gonna sell damn popcorn, damn popcorn to people.
Oppenheimer, I think, is a 100-day window. Like it's it's a really, really long window. And again, when they say something shot for IMAX, I think it's a lot more fun to to go watch it because it really takes it. I don't know if it's really worth oftentimes seeing stuff that isn't shot for IMAX.
Right.
In an IMAX
Is Oppenheimer shot for IMAX?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they shot it with cameras.
Did they shoot the whole thing? Or I remember when I saw Dark Knight, I think it was sort of like
put your glasses on
in IMAX.
Yeah, put your glasses on. Okay, now take your glasses off. Okay, now put your glasses on. Okay, now take your glasses off. That was not fun. I did not enjoy that.
I think that they shot the whole thing for IMAX. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that it's almost all because again with
I know
Dark
nuclear
Knight
blast
2D,
you want in IMAX, right?
Yeah,
Right,
I was,
exactly.
I hope that one of the reviewers like actually does the math and figures out like how watching Oppenheimer in IMAX is the equivalent of having how many chest X-rays in one day.
Christopher Nolan says, like Dunkirk and Tenet, Oppenheimer is filmed entirely on large format film stock, meaning a combination of IMAX 65 millimeter and Panavision 65 millimeter that's then projected in 70.
And the interesting thing for Oppenheimer is I believe that they developed a new black and white film just for the film, just for this piece, because they didn't want to color. They didn't want to just do mono of the color film stock. So they actually got their own film stock of black and white to do it. So Nolan is pushing the out, like he and Cameron and a couple others have the juice to say, I'm going to make a film exactly the way I'd like to make a film, and you will all figure it out, and there's not that many directors left that can do that.
Here's a picture of Nolan attacking Cillian Murphy, the star, with an IMAX camera. So
just picture the sound of the buzzsaw.
Exactly. There's some behind the scenes of that. You see it. It's incredible.
Now we're going to lock this down, and we and the rest of the crew are going behind this lead-lined wall.
Yeah.
While we turn on the camera.
There's the 65 millimeter film stock. Look at the size of that. Wow.
There are directors who are making events, and there are directors who are making movies. These people are making movies.
Yeah, I'll just wait and watch it on my iPhone. Whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But that's
not even
I haven't been to a theater,
right?
I haven't been to a theater in more than 3 years. That's what it's going to take to get me out into the theater.
Yeah,
so
it's the only time I go out. It's the only time I go out.
That was the first movie theater I've been in since like 2019.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Yes, I thought it was terrific. Not a perfect movie.
What, Barbie?
But
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Oh, Indiana Jones. Okay.
Fun movie.
Again, it was that one. Another one where it was a movie, not an event.
Also, very happy to see the Spider-Verse sequel in the theater. I've seen both of those movies in the theater, and it's like it is funny how we've sort of recalibrated to being, do I really want to see this on a big screen? and that's the funny thing about Oppenheimer, and really the Mission Impossible, is that they're probably best viewed on a big screen. Yeah. So I regret, I saw the Top Gun sequel, and I was like, the script is terrible, but it's kind of exciting. And I get the impression that if I had seen it really loud on a giant screen, I would have been like, oh, planes! Yeah. And that would have been better.
I was holding out for better seats, and I just didn't get to see Maverick on it. And at home, it's really great, but I know that, talking to my friends who saw it on an IMAX, they were just like, oh, it was truly something to see. So
yeah, Alex, getting back to Apple though, one thing I wanted to ask you, like, when do you think is going to be the first Apple keynote that has special content for Vision Pro users, or like a simulcast that is?
I think it'll be next year.
That would, you know what? That's the first thing I've heard that would make me want to buy a Vision Pro.
Well, I think that the Apple they're going to want to prove that model, and I think that it's much easier when it's not live, so the fact that they can do the whole thing and shoot it that way, I think that it would make sense to do it sometime next year. I don't have any, when you're doing it in post, it should be relatively straightforward to do that.
When I don't think
the one thing I'll say is that it's not very hard, because they're probably going to put it on a screen. So, when you think about, they're going to put it in a window that sits inside of a space. So the space will most likely be the theater, and the window will be there. Now they can make that window 3D if they want, so they could shoot it in 3D so it pops out. I'd be surprised. So I think that they would deliver it that way. The problem really is the way that they do you have to figure out how they do it. And they could theoretically do it this way, which is that there's a lot of things that they do in the keynote now that it's not on stage, that would be hard to do. It'd be hard for someone to watch, because when you create the space that the video is sitting in, so if you use of course in the Vision, there's the windows, there's volumes, and there's spaces. The windows is what you would typically play a movie inside of. The space is the environment, but it's the 360/180 environment. when you put that in there and you start cutting cameras really fast, or you start doing big jib shots or moves and all the Craig shots, or those big moves where they move from one floor to another.
Oh.
A lot of people that will get sick.
It's making me nauseous just thinking about it. Yeah.
So everyone's stomach will pull up into their, into their throat as that moves down there. Maybe they want to do that. But I think that the other thing that they could do is they could recreate, quote unquote, a stage experience where they're gently going, so that the Vision version is much different. It doesn't have as many moves. It's more like sitting on a stage, and it's going to deliver you. And now you can still change scenes in it, but I think eventually they could get to that. There's going to be, developing the 180 content for this is going to be pretty exciting. So we'll see how far they push it. But I think most likely they would do a 3D version inside of a window at first. Maybe even shifting, you can shift back and forth. So I think this is where we're going to see MLS, where you're going to be watching it in a 16:9 window, then they score and the window disappears and you're suddenly getting a replay in stereo, or, like in 180, like you're there or they just every once in a while take you to a certain part of the field and let you experience that in a full 180. I think that's going to be really interesting.
Jason Snell just dropping this in our Club TWiT Discord. The new Apple developer betas have just dropped.
And in new, I'm going to put that in quotation marks because these are still beta 3, but they're incremented build numbers. Now, why would they do that? Why would they possibly do that? Well, one reason is this is about the time every year where the public beta comes out. And I wonder if perhaps they had to make a few adjustments to beta 3 to fix some things before they unleash it on the public. So keep an eye out. They only said July, so it could be at any point between now and the end of the month. But this would, if you're looking for public betas, this I think is a smoke signal that they're probably on the way soon, because Apple likes to run. Here's how it works. Apple likes to run the developer beta by the people in that group to find showstoppers, and they did that today. So you would think it would be imminent if there weren't showstoppers. So if you're a developer on the betas, update now. And if you're not, or you're listening to this in the next week, maybe the public betas are even out by then. It really, there's no way to tell until Apple, they sometimes will go right up to the moment and then be like, forget it, not today, got a problem. But this is super suspicious that it's not beta 4. It's just beta 3, incremented like a couple, like the Mac one went from like G to I, right? Like in the internal build system. They didn't even increment the number. It's very clearly just a slightly more recent build than that. But that'll make it public. There are more people on the public beta. It's easier to get into the dev beta than it used to be, but the public betas are very popular these days. And I think we maybe are very close now.
You've been using the developer betas. Would you, presuming that these will come out before next MacBreak Weekly, would you warn people away from the public betas, or?
I'd say it's the standard warning. Like, you should be prepared. Like, if it's something that you rely on to get your day-to-day work done, you should probably not do it. If it's something that you want to do for fun to get a preview, or you're willing to suffer maybe worse battery life, if it's a mobile device, maybe some apps that don't behave quite right, but you're willing to chance it. Like, I haven't had any big problems at all with any of them, but there's also on the Mac, there's software that I rely on that does not work on the public beta. And so I have to have a second system so that I can run that software anyway. So, you just got to be careful. But these days, my beta warnings are a lot less than they used to be because Apple has this whole public beta process. Apple is trying very hard not to ruin everybody's summer. And so it's not quite as dangerous as it used to be. I'll also point out, if you're a Mac user, unlike the iPad and the iPhone, a Mac user, you can install the OS on an external drive and boot from it.
That's true.
And then reboot into the old operating system, which is nice and safe. You can't do that on the iPad and the iPhone. So you're just going to have to risk it. But that all said, I have not had any real problems with it, and some of the features are fun. So if you're willing to take the risk, but like if like literally you're going to lose your job if this app doesn't work, do not do it. Just don't risk it. Don't risk it.
There's a lot of interest in iOS 17, and as the only Mac podcast in Sonoma County, I think we probably should adapt. macOS.
It's going to be a good year for Sonoma County, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the year. It's your time.
I don't know what happened in Ventura County, but I hear it was big. We're expecting good things.
Big year, yeah.
All right, your picks of the week coming up after a break. So prepare those, boys. I do want to give a little plug to Club TWiT because we've got some great events coming up in our Discord on Friday. The Inside TWiT After Hours, the alcohol-fueled Inside TWiT. Aunt Pruitt, our community manager, will be hosting a hangout.
It's not alcohol. Oh, okay, it's going to be alcohol-fueled.
Yeah, it's alcohol-fueled. It's funny cars and kerosene and jet fuel. And John's shaking. John Slaninas shaking his head. John Ashley says yes. John Slaninas says no. Okay, well, we'll find out. You should tune in 5 p.m. Pacific, Friday, July 14th. The following, a couple of weeks later, a fireside chat with Ron Pyle. I'm really glad to see that Ant's going to do what he calls Coffee Time, live photo critiques in the club. That starts August 4th, 4 p.m. The club is the place to be these days. It's inexpensive. It's $7 a month, and you get ad-free versions of this show and every public show we do. Actually, every show we do. You get access to shows that we don't do in public. The new AI show with Jason Howell and Jeff Jarvis will launch in the club first. That's how we did it with This Week in Space with Rod Pyle. Then it went public after we built a large enough audience. Home Theater Geeks with Scott Wilkinson. Micah Sargent's Hands on Mac. Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott. The Untitled Linux Show with Jonathan Bennett and Company. The Giz Fizz with Dick D. Bartolo. These are all shows that are in the club only. Somebody was asking, emailed me, said, I've been looking everywhere for that Hugh Howey interview that Aunt Pruitt did a couple of weeks ago. Where is it? It's in the club in the TWiT Plus feed. So I think we give you a lot of value. And I have to say, it's also really important to our financial future because podcasting's struggling just a little bit these days. And we've already had to cancel a couple of shows. I don't want to cancel any more shows. And I definitely don't want to, turn off the lights. So if you want to keep the lights on, keep the shows going, twit.tv/Club TWiT. And I thank you in advance. We love our club members. They make a lot of things possible that we wouldn't be doing otherwise. As do our advertisers. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, well, you're dealing with economic uncertainty, right? That adds to the challenges. Businesses like us, like, what's going on? Now more than ever, it's important to hire the right people faster and more efficiently. You want to keep your overall costs down. You want to keep your staff going. Thankfully, there is a hiring partner who's focused on you and your needs, and that's ZipRecruiter. From pricing to technology, everything ZipRecruiter does is for you and what works best for you. They've got their fingers on the pulse of employers and employees everywhere, and they know ZipRecruiter is the best. Right now, you can try it for free. Yeah, for free at ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Let me give you some of the many ways ZipRecruiter prioritizes your needs. Pricing, very straightforward. You know exactly what you're going to pay before you post your job. No surprises. You know what your budget is, and you can stick to it. You'll reach more qualified people right away because ZipRecruiter sends your job post there to more than 100 other job sites. So you're casting the broadest possible net. Plus, their smart technology helps you find great candidates faster and invite the best matches to apply for your job. Beat out the competition for talent. ZipRecruiter lets you invite candidates you really want to apply to your job before those other guys can snag them. Hire the best with the help of a partner who is all about you. ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. It's what we use, and it's true. It really works. Go to this exclusive web address to try ZipRecruiter free. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Again, ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Alex Lindsay, I think you should kick things off with your pick of the week. Andy has not spent enough money yet today.
Mine's not very expensive. I mean, it's connected to something expensive, but it's not expensive itself. It's called Monitor Plus. And for those of you using Sony cameras like myself, Monitor Plus lets you tie your iPhone to it. One of the big problems with not using a Blackmagic camera with all the other Blackmagic stuff is I can't shade the camera anymore. And so I was complaining about it. And of course, people started sending me the links, and I started downloading the links. And the one that I found to be the most stable is Monitor Plus. It's actually pretty easy to link into. Once the phone is set, I can be controlled. You simply turn it on. It will ask you, do you want to join the Wi-Fi connection, and then you basically get, and I'm having trouble getting my phone to output to my switcher, but I was able to connect to it. So you'll see here, this is what I see, which is I have a little bit of I have a histogram,
scope,
of scopes, and then I have that, and then I have controls. And so now with my phone, I can look at it, and I do this to.
Can you apply a LUT while you're watching?
I can't apply a LUT, but you can see me. That's my phone. I'm just sitting there with my phone, adjusting
that's
my,
awesome.
that's my ISO. So I have, I can actually go in here and make I haven't tried to change the LUT for it itself, but I definitely can, make adjustments to a lot of parts of it. And again, having the histogram built right into it is really nice because I can take a look at it and just know whether I'm, kind of in the right space or not. So it's a pretty slick. Like I can go into my color, for instance.
Sony has its own app, which is total crap. The imaging, whatever they call it, Sony Imaging Plus. I use an A7R4, and this would be great. Is it just for video? It's just for video.
I only use it with video. It might do other things. I have to admit, my experience right now has been mostly to control it with video. But
it does support all of their vlogging cameras too, which is would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
So it's one of the big gotchas when you're not, because the great thing about the Blackmagic cameras is once you plug them into the switcher, you're able to control them, shade them, do a lot of other things. And so having something else that gets close, it's not quite the same level of control or fluidness that you have with a Blackmagic camera. It's just that the autofocus on the Sony is really nice. So it's but anyway, Monitor Plus works pretty well.
Great. Hey, this just in too. Thank you, Scooter X, in our IRC. Half an hour ago, Apple pushed out new firmware for the Beats Studio Buds, the AirPods Pro. This has been promised, and I think this would be the transparency stuff and the auto adaptivity stuff and so forth. So I don't think if you have Beats Pros or AirPods Pros, you'd have to do anything. I imagine as soon as you hook them up to your phone, it'll update the firmware. So that's good news. That's good news. And Alex's pick, once again, Monitor Plus. It's on the App Store from Han In Un.
Yeah, it's not very good. And it was one of the things, there's a lot of other people that made them. I just found this one to be the easiest one to connect and have it work, and it's free, and it's yeah.
And you can use it with Wi-Fi, but it also supports earlier, like the A7 III with USB. So you can use it wired. Thank you, Alex. Andy Ihnatko, you have a pick. Make it good.
Yes. It's interesting. Something I hadn't seen before. I'm evacuating myself from Evernote, because there's so much turmoil there.
You're still there, really? Wow.
Well, because it gets into my pick, as a matter of fact, because one of the things in my workflow is that I need to be able to, when I find something on the web that I need to refer back to for research when I'm writing about something or preparing to talk about something on NPR or on a podcast, like I need to have the actual, you know what happens, things tend to disappear or you lose internet connectivity when you're kind of desperate to actually get access to it. So part of my workflow is to clip the entire web page on Evernote via its plugin was really good.
I used to use that all the time. I loved the Evernote plugin.
And it was great. Like when I board the train to go into Boston to do radio, I just, pull up my iPad, click on the sync button on Evernote, and now every single website every single web article that I'm basing a lot of my talk on is going to have this stuff on it. So I'm looking for other workflows I need to be able to capture web pages. I found this plugin for pretty much every web browser out there. It's called Mark Download. And it's just a simple plugin. You click a button and it will download your current web page as in Markdown format. And it's very, very robust. It gives you, it creates a readability version of it. So it's not as though it's going to try to download like all the buttons and all the ads and stuff like that. But it presents you with a window of here's the Markdown that I've captured from this. And you have the ability to edit it before it gets saved, and then you can save it. You can also create templates so that if you want to, I was experimenting with, it's not just the content, I also want to make sure I'm capturing certain metadata so that maybe I can script or automate certain things about these pages that I'm downloading. And so you could create here's what the header should look like, here's what the footer should look like. You can select just parts of the site of the web page to capture. It may not be the one that I use permanently, but it was unusual, and boy, does it work well. It also integrates really, really well with Obsidian for people who are using the Obsidian note taker. And the fact that like my now go-to app for most of my like study and writing is Ulysses, which is based on Markdown. There are a bunch of other really great apps that are based on Markdown now. So the ability to simply drag that web page into as a new note into Ulysses without having to worry about, I can't attach a PDF or I can't attach it as this. Working with it as a native thing that can then cut and paste text without worrying about where I'm selecting. That's a pretty interesting process. I think
it's not a screenshot. It's an actual textual markdown based version of the page. I think you
wind up with a markdown text document that's properly formatted.
Yeah. I'm installing it right now in Firefox. That would be very, very handy. Yep. And it's free. Mark download.
Yeah, it's free. Get it from GitHub.
It's on GitHub, baby. Mr. Jason Snell, you want to plug your friend's book, don't you?
Since we're plugging friends' novels today, I am going to plug my friend's novel, All Souls Lost by Dan Moren. Comes out October 17th. It is available for pre-ordering now. I had the good fortune to read it a few years ago. It's been sort of in process for a while. It's really good. It's an urban fantasy. And the relevance to this show, well, there's a big tech company in it where mysterious, potentially supernatural things may be happening. And if you think that Dan might write what he knows and that big tech company might resemble, I don't know, Apple in some way, well, no similarities between anybody living or dead. Certainly not. It's a fun read, and it's coming out finally. Everybody else in the world gets to see it, and definitely I laughed at the big tech company that the main character works for.
This looks really fun.
It's really familiar.
I love
and there will
Dan's
be an audiobook.
Writing.
They haven't announced the audiobook yet. This is his first book that is not in his Galactic Cold War series, which is ongoing. Yeah. It's an urban fantasy, and it's just a kick. And the fact that if you know about Apple, and then you will recognize things in it. That's all I can say.
Say hello to Mike Lucifer, spiritual consultant. He's back in town to take care of business. Unfortunately, when business is good, things must be very, very bad.
Yeah, he's like your typical noir detective who really doesn't want to be involved and gets involved and then gets his life threatened. And, it's that kind of thing. It's a noir detective fantasy setting, urban fantasy thing. It's great. So people should check it out.
It feels kind of noir. That's exactly the kind of mess that drove him from his hometown of Boston to a sunny beach in the bottom of a bottle.
Bottom of a bottle. Yep.
I love it.
But now he's back in town and he's in trouble. It's a great setup. It's a fun book. And October 17th, but you can order it now. Nice. And that's what you should do.
Very good. Dan Moore.
We all know Dan. It sounds like something that Dan had a lot of fun writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in his wheelhouse.
I want to give a little plug to an app that you've picked before, Andy. I know you know it and like it. In fact, I thought you might make this your pick of the week. Bear just came out with version 2 after 5 years of working on it. All new editor and lots of new features. This is a markdown editor that is Apple only, iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. Free to use, although if there are some advanced features you might want to pay a measly $30 a year for, like syncing. It has full encryption, and it is fully markdown capable. So a very nice, a lot of people like it. Very nice editor. I know you use it or have used it, right, Andy?
I've used it. When I first used it, it seemed too similar to Ulysses for me to consider switching. But now this looks like it really has. It's got into a really nice Ford versus GM, a Ford versus Ferrari sort of battle, which is like, they us together have shown the world that really great Markdown-based note-taking apps are very muscular and useful, and now we're basically going to start serving this market in a much more professional way. It does so many more things. I downloaded it. I've not started playing with it, but I did see a lot of things that I wish that Ulysses had.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Markdown is that I could simply take all of my Ulysses. If I decide to switch to Bear, I just switch from one folder to the other. If I decide to sync to create a shared Google Drive folder with all of my like Ulysses projects and Markdown projects, I could even like edit Markdown on my Android phone, and when I open up on my Mac or on my iPad or on my iPhone, it won't care. So this is why using an open standard that's based on text files is such a powerful thing, because you never know what changes are going to make in the future, and you're ready for it.
You probably already know Markdown, even if you've never heard of Markdown. John Gruber created it many moons ago, and it is a very simple text-based way to create formatted text. Many years later, it's kind of a power tool, and that's Bear's file format, which means it's open and you're not stuck. And Bear is famous for its editor. They've got a new editor now that they've put out.
I've been on the test flight of that editor for like 3 years.
3 freaking
it's
years.
Good.
It's long in the way. It's not just, hey, now we've added kerning. It's like, no, we basically decided to do a frame off restoration of this, and now it's basically a brand new car.
It looks really. If it were cross-platform, it'd be a no-brainer for me. It really looks good, and yeah, your stuff is stored locally, and that's important. Although if you want the syncing, it's in iCloud as well. We got Jason, we got Andy, we got Alex. I think we got everybody. A special thanks to Ray Maxwell for showing us his Mac Pro today. Glad to get that review in. If you don't like the Mac Pro, then listen to Update this week, and you'll feel much better about your life. Right, Jason?
Exactly. It'll change. Now, what I said about the Mac Pro is that it's the least important Mac, but that's to Apple because it sells in such small quantities. But if it's the Mac for you, then it's the most important Mac. That's what I'm saying.
Upgrade is one of the many podcasts Jason does. This one's on relay.fm. If you go to I found you, sixcolors.com/Jason, you'll find everything Jason does. Thank you, Jason Snell. We always appreciate you being here. Yeah. Thank you, Andy Ihnatko. When are you going to be on GBH next?
Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Time. Go to wgbhnews.org to stream it live or stream it later.
Wonderful. And stay dry. Get your hip waders on and go down to the 7-Eleven to celebrate.
Now that staying inside will do it, but I also have air conditioning, so I will also be staying dry from my own from my own self-basting for the first year.
How nice. Congratulations.
I'm already I've rejected every impulse that my inner dad voice has given me, saying that, oh, come on, it's only 81 degrees. It's not really hot yet. But when you can just simply say, how about if we just keep it 68 degrees the entire house always? Like, damn it. That's a good argument.
It's a nice feeling when you finally give in, because I know exactly how you feel, and turn it on and it's suddenly cool. And it's like, oh, that's available.
I'm no longer having to swallow the air because it's so thick. Yes. It's actually dry, potable air.
The planet may be burning, but I'm comfortable. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Lindsay, officehours.global. Tell us about what's up there. Ooh, animation.
Yeah, it's a busy week as always. We had a great session with a project manager from AWS yesterday, talking really about how to plan projects. Today, we talked about the overall pipeline of 3D production, which was really, really great. Alan Hawks, who's just an incredible 3D production person, was really giving the overview. He's going to do a year and a half at once a month, talking about different aspects of the 3D pipeline. We're talking about acoustical panels tomorrow because it's audio day. We have Chris Seeger, who's NBC Universal's Director of Advanced Content Production, coming in on Thursday with Michael Dresden and Jim Toten. These are the guys that work on Thursday Night Football, and they're going to be talking about HDR, objective color metrics. I mean, this is a deep hour, and you might like that, Mac. So, I think that Ray might enjoy this one.
Oh, yeah.
These are the guys.
Ray, you better show up for this one. Yeah.
They are spending, they've been building the NBC LUTs and all the other things to figure out how to do consistent, perfect color, going from SDR to HDR back to SDR, all those other things. And so they're going to be talking about that. Friday's a little more relaxed. We're just showing a bunch of our projects and talking about what worked and didn't work and answering questions. And then Saturday, we're talking about audio description with Joel Snyder, who is really one of the key people who created it. And our accessibility Saturdays have turned into quite a thing. I mean, we're experimenting with adding accessibility. We have deaf panelists and ASL, and we're adding a lot of other bits and pieces and really understanding what the challenges are and working with everybody. And it's turned out to be a really good Saturday. So anyway, that's this week.
Free, open to all.
Busy week.
You can be in the Zoom if you want. You have to go to the page and fill out the join us form, but you can also watch the hour on YouTube. Best place to go, officehours.global, to find out about that. And if you want to hire Alex for your next streaming event, 090.media is the place to go. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Ray Maxwell. And thanks to you for being here. We do MacBreak Weekly, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live. There's a live audio stream and video stream at live.twit.tv. If you're watching live, chat live. The IRC is open to all. All you need is a web browser to go to irc.twit.tv. Of course, if you're a club member, you can also chat in the MacBreak Weekly section of our Discord, and that's open all the time as well. After the fact, on-demand versions of our show available at twit.tv/mbw. When you're there, you'll see links to the YouTube channel dedicated to MacBreak Weekly. You'll also see links to various podcast players. You can subscribe there. It's really the best way to get the show is to subscribe, and that way you'll have it whenever you're in the mood to listen to MacBreak Weekly. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time. Now it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Oh, hey, that's a really nice iPhone you have there. You totally picked the right color. Hey, since you do use an iPhone and maybe use an iPad or an Apple Watch or an Apple TV, well, you should check out iOS Today. It's a show that I, Micah Sargent, and my co-host Rosemary Orchard host every Tuesday right here on the TWiT network. It covers all things iOS, tvOS, HomePodOS, watchOS, iPadOS. It's all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and we love to give you tips and tricks about making the most of those devices, checking out great apps and services, and answering your tech questions. I hope you check it out.